Hello.
Hello. Hi, Susie.
For a minute there, it said I was the only participant, and I'm thinking, I've just lost everybody completely.
Shoved us in a room and we've all gone.
Thought for a minute. Right. Any feedback about what you'd like?
Getting back on track. I've been away for 2 weeks and now I've been off track.
Right. Getting back on track.
It's worked out well for me. New moon and I've come back today. And I've been off track because I've been away with family, and I've tried to be as good as possible, but it's been challenging at times.
No. Yeah, it's much more difficult when you're away.
I think we all agreed that that's the thing, really, to get us back into the right frame of mind. Really.
Yeah, right frame of mind. Yes, yeah.
And we've got somebody to be accountable to.
Did somebody say sugar cravings?
Yes, surely.
Right, yeah. Thank you. Oh, that should be really relevant to today then. Thank you. Yeah.
Good. Mine's a salt craving, if anything.
Salt craving.
Right. My food just doesn't taste of anything without salt. And so I don't enjoy my food as much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That might have to be November. Anything else?
I think we all more or less wanted to feel motivated again.
Yeah.
And I feel doing famine or feast. I'm like, some days I'm eating really well and nutritiously, and then other days it's a real up and down graph with me.
Yes. Does it relate to stress at all, or do you feel like it's the time of the month, or like new moon or full moon, or?
No, I never relate it to the moon. I just relate it to can't be bothered to cook and that sort of thing. So I'll just I just have a glass of wine instead.
Right. Okay. Bad.
If I'm being honest.
You might as well be.
I don't think the cold weather helps either.
Oh gosh, no, not at all.
I think cold weather makes you think, oh, I should fancy a salad or soup. Fancy a nice big bar of chocolate.
Oh, once the light goes, my gosh. Yes. Right. So bringing more light in. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. Oh, what a lovely list. Right. Well, today we're going to have a look at blood glucose particularly, but in relation to a lot of studies that have been done on cinnamon, because it can be a really supportive spice to bring in to the diet. Does anybody use cinnamon in cooking?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I have it with my breakfast.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. How much do you tend to put on?
Is it cinnamon that I have
mix in with my cereal, you know.
I have a teaspoon.
A teaspoon, yeah. How many, is that 3 of you that do that, or 4 of you, did you say?
I don't know.
I have done it in the past, Susie, not the last fortnight.
Yeah, you sort of do it on and off. Yeah. As far as you know, is it always ground, the cinnamon that you've got?
Ground, yes, ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, mine is as well. It's Waitrose organic ground. Cinnamon.
Yeah, lovely.
Waitrose own brand.
Yeah. Has anybody noticed anything about having cinnamon, not having cinnamon at all?
No.
No, we have it every day, so I wouldn't notice it.
Yeah, it's the
It's
same for me.
happened, yeah.
I have such a mix of things in my breakfast that you know, knowing in isolation what's doing what, I don't know. I can tell you I have an overall improvement if I have a healthy breakfast and juice, and I do notice it, but I can't isolate what anything that's in it's doing.
No. Okay, that's brilliant. The studies that have been done have been done with anything from sort of 100 milligrams of cinnamon to about 6 grams, I think it is, which is but it's a particular type of cinnamon. So I'll grab the presentation so we can have a look.
Teaspoons, what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of teaspoons? What you just said?
Well, 5 grams is a teaspoon.
Okay.
So 6
lot,
grams.
isn't it? 100.
Yeah, it is a lot. Let's see if I can get this slideshow to behave. There we go. So this cinnamon that you can see here is probably much thicker. Does anybody buy it in sticks as well? Maybe for
I have bought it years ago in the sticks. Yes.
What you'll notice is that this cinnamon is very thick, and it's a much thicker bark, and it's much higher in something called coumarin. So what I'm going to look at first of all is how it's used as a culinary spice, but then have a look at some of the studies that have, you know, looked at it as a therapeutic spice. So of course it's, you know, something that herbalists and Chinese herbalists use therapeutically, but it's amazing how from about 2003 there've been more and more studies, more and more research studies done on using cinnamon to help blood sugar. And as you'll know, it's a bit of a pet topic of mine because, of course, the more bombarded we are with electromagnetic frequencies, the more difficult it is for us to manage our blood sugar. So we've got a look at blood sugar, pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes this evening. And next time I'll have a look at polycystic ovary syndrome, which is associated with poor blood sugar management, weight loss, gut flora, oral support, how you can use it to keep your mouth fresh and all the bacteria at bay. And also it's good for nerve protection. So there are 4 types of cinnamon. One of them is very expensive. And that's probably the one that you've bought, if you have bought these very finely rolled quills. They're quite light brown. It has a much sweeter flavour than the other cinnamons, but it has the lowest content of the active ingredient that helps the blood sugar, called coumarin. And so the other 3, made in China or grown in China, Indonesia and Vietnam, are a much darker brown, and the bark that they take is much thicker. And each of those has about 10 milligrams in 1 gram of the bark. Now you can actually buy the bark in bags. And what I've been doing and experimenting with is popping it into a coffee grinder along with my seeds. So it's a tropical aromatic evergreen tree. I mean, cinnamon does smell absolutely lovely, and you can also make a tea of it, which is nice for the digestion. So particularly if you've had a heavy meal. But the cassia type is grown in southern Eastern Asia, and the Ceylon cinnamon, which is Zeylanicum rather than cassia, is sometimes called the true cinnamon because it's very valued as a culinary spice, although cassia is also used. Now, what you'll often get when you buy a jar of cinnamon is some of the cassia ground up, mixed in with the sweeter, lighter cinnamon. But what you'll notice if you grind the darker cassia one is that it's quite a bit darker than what you'll get in a jar. So you'll often have quite a lot of Ceylon cinnamon in there, which doesn't have the same effect on your blood sugar as this cassia bark. So you've got the Ceylon cinnamon at the top there, and you've got the cassia cinnamon in the bottom photographed. So what you can do as well is, if you're roasting vegetables or you're cooking, but you might be stewing apples perhaps, you might pop it in as a stick rather than the powder. And you can also use the the stronger flavored bark with the greater content of coumarin. You can also use it in curries. If you happen to use meat, you can marinate it in there with that. Now in the West, we tend to use it more for sweet dishes, but in the East, it is used in more savoury recipes, much more. Things like tagines, sort of Moroccan tagines, have cinnamon in. So just a few recipe ideas where you could use your cinnamon. You could simmer it for 15 minutes and make a cinnamon tea. And again, one of the things that can be nice for is the evening, because cinnamon helps blood sugar and keeping it steady. It also has a good reputation for supporting sleep. So I don't know if anybody's ever had the Sleep Easy tea, but that also has the cinnamon in with it, along with chamomile. That's the Clipper Sleep Easy. And that's because it is helpful. So if you've got the cassia bark, the cinnamon stick, you can actually pop a small amount in with your omega seeds, your sesame and sunflower, or your pumpkin and linseeds, and grind it up in a decent coffee grinder in the morning. You might just need to grind for 30 seconds more, just to make sure that the cinnamon stick gets ground up properly. You could add it to your porridge with your fruit. You could blend it up in a smoothie. You could add cinnamon to a hot plant milk by warming it with the milk. And then if you eat chocolate, you could add raw dark chocolate at the end, or you could add turmeric powder and make a cinnamon turmeric latte. You can add powdered cinnamon to any sweet recipes or any of your stews. One thing it can be lovely in is if you do a spaghetti bolognese type sauce with lentils, to add a teaspoon of cinnamon to that gives a really lovely flavour. Or try it in your chili if you do a veggie chili. So production of it, you've got the trees cut back to stumps when they're 2, and what happens is that they sprout off there and grow into bush type plants, and then they get cut, and again the bark is stripped and dried again. And when it's dried, the bark curls into the quills that we know as the sticks, and they're ground into cinnamon powder. So sometimes when you buy your cinnamon, obviously we don't know how fresh it is, and therefore how active any of the phytochemicals are in it still. But the one that's most responsible for the smell and the taste is cinnamaldehyde. But storage is really important, good storage. So if you've got it in a lovely jar, but then it's in a warm kitchen, it's not going to keep so well. Now, therapeutically, unfortunately, there has been, as I said, since, you know, the last nearly 20 years, a lot of studies done on cinnamon with human beings, not just lab and animal trials, because they've done a lot of that as well. And unfortunately, they haven't really disclosed the type of cinnamon, but it's most likely that it is the cassia, because it's got the strongest amount of ingredients for therapeutic use. Now, looking at the types, there seem to be more on cassia that are recommended as being helpful in blood glucose control and other related conditions. So each of the conditions that I've mentioned will have many of them will have some aspect of blood sugar problem going on as well, dysglycemia. Now, the leaves are much, much stronger in the coumarin. So really it can be toxic to the liver. So the leaves are not such a good choice, because the effects of them would be very, very strong. And the essential oil uses the inner bark rather than the leaves and other parts of the trees. So you've got loads of phytochemicals in cinnamon, and they are what gives it its health effects. And of course, spices have so many health benefits. I mean, for one thing, they are so high in your antioxidants. So often, if we, for example, are craving a curry in the autumn and winter, has anybody had that experience where they, oh, I could really just murder a curry? No, nobody else. Is it just me? And what it is really is that they are so high in antioxidants, is that if you're feeling a bit low in antioxidants that day, your body will sort of think, well, all of those lovely spices, I mean, thinking just about turmeric and how many antioxidants they are in the colour of that, then that's, you know, can be a pinch hit for antioxidants, and that's what your body is asking for. But there's a whole list of phytochemicals there, from terpenoids to lactones and lignans, that your body is very happy to take on board. Now, they've got 127 plus phytochemicals identified in cinnamon so far, and each of them have different properties. But it's the cinnamaldehyde and the coumarin that are often cited. So the health effects of those are anti-tumor, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, analgesic, pain relief, anti-dysglycemic, so helping blood sugar, antimicrobial, and this is why cinnamon is sometimes used in toothpaste as well, and there's some homemade toothpaste recipes out there if anybody's interested. Cardioprotective, good for your heart, good for your nerves. There are loads and loads of lab and animal studies, and there are less human trials, but they're the ones that I'm going to focus on. Now, the fascinating thing about cinnamon, at least I think it's absolutely fascinating, is that the entry to the body is actually via the way it feeds your gut flora. So it's not that you take it in at the stomach and it's the stomach that does the work and the small intestine as such. It's that it's the way that it feeds your gut flora that actually then feeds those substances into the rest of the body. So it's the way that the gut flora metabolize the cinnamon. And so what they know then is that, and this is absolutely amazing, that cinnamon, the byproducts from being metabolized by the gut flora, then support your glucose metabolism, by actually slowing down the rate at which you absorb glucose or sugars. It imitates the actions of insulin, and it also increases your cell sensitivity to insulin. Now, dysglycemia is simply a name for any abnormalities in blood glucose levels. So it can mean anything from being sort of experiencing fatigue, shakiness and confusion if you get a blood sugar drop, from being pre-diabetic to actually diabetic. It's a poor state of blood glucose management. So with cinnamon and digestion, it also, as I mentioned earlier, when it's used to make cinnamon tea, it can help your body digest a heavy meal. But it also slows the release of glucose into the bloodstream, because what happens is that it delays the gastric emptying taking place at such a great rate, because often it's glucose that will be fastest digested and fastest emptying into your bloodstream, raising your blood sugar, then causing insulin to be produced, causing a crash, etc. So it's also reducing the activity in the stomach of digesting the carbohydrate, digesting enzymes. So it actually supports your digestion of your carbs as well. Then cinnamon at a cellular level, it sensitizes your cells to insulin by activating all the little insulin receptors on your cells and your GLUT4 glucose transporters that are carrying glucose. It also supports your main organs in the metabolic processes that promote insulin sensitivity there. So particularly organs like your liver. And there are several studies that show effects in humans who've got blood glucose issues. And I'm going to have a little look at those. So the organs that it supports are your liver, your pancreas and your small intestine, and helping glycemic control in all of those, and also helping your body actually at a cellular level by increasing glucose uptake and increasing sensitivity of those insulin receptors, which is so important and is often the thing that is going downhill in a pre-diabetic state. So if we look at pre-diabetes and so-called metabolic syndrome, same thing, one is the same as the other. You've got a collection of cardio, that's heart-related, and metabolic, your metabolism. You've got symptoms stemming from there that are impaired glucose tolerance and insulin resistance. And unfortunately, what we tend to do then is get more fat around the middle and also more visceral obesity, more fat over the organs. It predisposes us to high blood pressure, high triglycerides, that's high fat levels in the blood, and low HDL cholesterol. So your good cholesterol is far too low. So also, unfortunately, because of that, hardening of the arteries, more prone to heart attack and stroke, more prone to vascular dementia, gout as well, and hormone-related cancers, and also, because that's also hormone-related, polycystic ovary syndrome. So how do you know if you've got the problem? Well, one thing can be that the skin around the neck and the armpits, where you've got folds of skin tends to start browning. Another symptom is fatigue and inability to focus. Things like, we've said, high blood pressure, low HDL cholesterol, central obesity, apple shape, polycystic ovary syndrome or erectile dysfunction in men, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And of course, when we've got fatty liver, we've also got the problem where we're starting to become pre-diabetic, if not diabetic. And so either apple or pear body shapes can be an issue, because with the pear body shape, you know, you've often got where the fat cells in the abdomen are they're making their own hormones, estrogen included. So if there's 3 of those signs or more present, then it's possible that that's going on. So looking at cinnamon and metabolic syndrome, they found that cinnamon lowers blood glucose in people with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. And we've got this homeostatic model assessment for insulin resistance that they use in research studies as a measure of insulin resistance. And they found in 16 randomized controlled trials that cinnamon lowered that insulin resistance. Although it says your HbA1c and lipid profiles weren't significantly affected. Now, I just wanted to look at HbA1c because you've probably heard of having high lipids in the blood, which is not a good thing. Certainly what someone would experience after eating McDonald's, for example. But high HbA1c means that there's too much sugar in the blood. And this is something they measure when people have type 2 diabetes. And it's called glycated hemoglobin. And what it is that the sugar is actually sticking, as you can see below, to your little red blood cells. And your body can't use the sugar properly, so more of it's sticking to your blood cells and building up in your blood. And your red blood cells, because they last about 2 to 3 months, that's why you have a quarterly reading usually taken in pre-diabetes or diabetes. And ideally, if you're at risk of developing it, it should be below 6% in your blood. And if you have diabetes, it should ideally be below 6.5%. But the ideal is really that we don't have glycating hemoglobin. We don't have it, you know, sticking to our blood cells. That is not a good sign. So they did a clinical trial last year of 52 pre-diabetic individuals, and they were taking 500 milligrams of cinnamon 3 times a day. And they found that improved fasting blood glucose and glucose tolerance compared to people who were not, who'd been given a placebo for 12 weeks, that nothing much changed. And they did the oral glucose tolerance test to test glucose tolerance. So also they found that people taking the cinnamon had improved blood pressure control, and they also had better fasting working memory. And working memory is something that's often impaired in pre-diabetes. Cinnamon can also be helpful where metabolic syndrome has progressed to type 2 diabetes. They do get mixed results, but many trials show that cinnamon does improve blood glucose and lipid levels. And those studies go back as far as 2003. when they had a randomized control of 60 type 2 diabetes patients. They were taking either 1, 3 or 6 grams for 40 days. They had reduced blood levels of glucose, triglycerides as well, LDL cholesterol was lower, and total cholesterol was lower. Now, the thing I'd like to comment on at this moment is that with these trials, they don't actually look at what else people are doing, what else they're eating and drinking. And so the power that we have really is that if you have also changed what you're eating and drinking, then you are going to, get simply another benefit from using a bit of cinnamon. So a study of 69 patients in China found that when they were taking cinnamon for 3 months, and this is much lower doses, 120 milligrams or 360 milligrams, that HbA1c, that glycated hemoglobin, was reduced. There was no change in the placebo group. When they did an analysis of 10 studies with 543 patients, which is, quite a big number, that's pretty good for, comparing results, they had, again, reductions in blood glucose, blood lipids, and also an increase in the cardioprotective HDL-C as well. So looking at conclusions with type 2 diabetes, unfortunately, they did have varying results in individual trials, but when they've looked at systematic reviews of the studies, then the overall conclusion has been that there's quite a lot of benefits. But it's been quite hard to ascertain the most effective dose. And what you tend to find is that supplementation is at about 100 milligrams a day. And also the studies don't really say the type and duration of cinnamon always. But next time, as I said, we'll have a look at some other conditions that you'll probably find interesting. And I think gut flora is probably going to be interesting. And obviously it will have an effect on weight because of the effects on blood sugar. And I think you'll also be quite interested on how it is great for the teeth as well.
Where would we get a very good quality cinnamon, do you think?
Good quality. Well, what's...
Well, the more you talk about it, the more I think, well, mine's probably pretty old and I should chuck it out.
Yes. Well, interestingly, most of the Asian shops have a really good turnover of the cassia cinnamon, the Chinese cinnamon, or Indonesian. And it comes in little bags as a, actually as the bark. And so what I would suggest is that when you're grinding your seeds to pop onto your breakfast in the morning, that you pop, a small piece of bark in with the seeds and grind it up.
I'm going to have to go and get the charger because I've just realised it's come
okay.
up. I'm right low.
Yeah, okay.
I'll disappear.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, Susie, what is working memory?
Working memory is the memory that you would sort of go upstairs and you would think, what did I come up here for?
Right.
Or you would want to retrieve a word from, your memory stores, or that you don't use very often, perhaps that kind of thing, or a name, or a, the kind of recall that brings things back to the fore as you're running through your day.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So, the benefits from helping blood sugar keep steady to that is enormous.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Has anybody ever bought the little bags of cinnamon bark that you can get from
No,
Asia?
I've never seen it.
No.
I bought it in the jars like you showed. The
Yes, Swartz
jar.
jars.
Right,
Yes. Yeah.
I've
Them.
never bought it from an Asian shop or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I love going into Asian shops because they are, you know, they're like an Aladdin's cave of
No.
spices and weird and wonderful looking vegetables and all sorts of things. So unfortunately, they don't always do a lot organic, but they do have a really good selection of spices, certainly.
We have a
And
couple of Asian
when-
supermarkets near us.
Yes, we do. Yeah,
Yeah.
on Adbrig Road. Yes, yeah.
No, and I wasn't thinking of those. Are they supermarkets or just shops?
They're little supermarkets, some of
All
them.
right, because there's some really big supermarkets at Thornhill
Ah, right.
and one in Wakefield, which isn't very nice, but it's got a lot of stuff, but it's not very nice.
Yes, there's a big one on Peterson Road, off
Yes,
Peterson.
yes, that's the one that's not particularly nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's, but it's also thinking about the fact that often the turnover in those shops is quite high. So it'll be nice and fresh.
Yes.
And they also tend to get things, some things shipped direct. I mean, we've had some amazing mangoes actually from the Manchester Road one, because they are coming in straight from you know, the countries that the cultures that have really good fruits and veggies.
We don't have any little Asian supermarkets.
Right.
We have obviously got an awfully large community of Asian people.
No, we have, I mean, I've ordered, funnily enough, the cinnamon bark this time from Ocado, and they've sent me exactly the same make as I could buy in the Asian shop, East End. So sometimes you'd be surprised where you find things. Any other questions about cinnamon? I'm going to send out this week a buckwheat granola. So you activate the buckwheat and then you sort of, well, not roast it, but cook it with some spices and things. And then you add some more ingredients when it comes out the oven. And then you can pop that maybe into a plant yogurt or on top of a porridge or into a muesli, or just have a bowl of granola. So I think you might find that interesting, because obviously buckwheat as a grain is a very neutral one. It's high in magnesium. It's, again, not too overstimulating for blood sugar, and it's one of those ones that is supportive of spleen function, which is lovely as we go into winter and autumn.
Is that the buckwheat groats?
The groats, yes.
Yes, I've got
Yeah.
some. I haven't
Yeah.
done anything with them yet.
Yeah. So I'll get that. I haven't done the photo sheet yet, but I'll do a photo sheet of that one and send it out. Yeah, and I'll send you the slides as well.
Thank you.
Any questions going forward from the new moon? Anybody going to start anything today or take anything out? Or
I'm going to watch the sugar more.
right, yeah. Everybody,
working memory is definitely struggling.
yeah. Yeah, it's really helpful to watch sugar levels, and also, you know, everything that we've looked at before is really important. So getting your 4 pints of water in a day, and you know, working with, if you can, keeping your blood sugar steady through what you're eating, as well as you know, cinnamon is a tool. I think it's like a tool which will help alongside everything else that you're doing.
Yeah,
it's just keeping it all up, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Just got to keep. And my thing, I think, when we were shut in the room, I was just mentioning, I just need to kind of open my recipe bits a bit. I have, because I am a bit sort of regimented. So, you know, I always have porridge every single morning since we've done this. I've had porridge, but it is different every morning. So I do try and add. I'm getting a little bit more adventurous and doing different stuff with it, and I do love that.
Yeah.
But I do get hungry before my lunch. So I think when I spoke to you before, I think my metabolism has gone. I've had no funny shakes, not had any of that.
Lovely.
But I do get hungry. So if I do need something, then I do just get something, but something that is an okay thing to have. So there's no biscuits, no sweet, that's fine, can do all that. And then I have a really good lunch, and I have the most random things at lunch. But it's just sometimes the evening meal, because we don't both always eat the same, that's sometimes I think, oh heck, what am I going to eat? Because it stresses me if I feel I'm not having the right things.
Yes. Well, actually, you just reminded me, I've probably got a tagine with cinnamon. I send that recipe as well, as a suggestion. But also, I think snacks are really important. You know, if you can, plan your snacks. And if the worst comes to the worst, get an apple, give it a good wash, cut it in half, and put the half on a saucer and stick it in the fridge, and then cut 3 slices and put a little bit of a nice nut butter, just thinly, on the apple slice, because it's sweet, but you've also got the protein there. Or, you know, each morning soak a little jar, a squirrel jar, or a squirrel box jar, of, you know, your favorite nuts.
Yes.
And see, you know, have a few nuts with a piece of fruit, with a handful of blueberries, with cherry tomatoes.
What about pine nuts? I love pine nuts, but are they particularly good for you?
Well, they are actually a nut that's very high fat, but they're absolutely gorgeous, aren't they?
I know, I love that's the only problem. I could eat a packet.
Yeah. I mean, as the weather gets colder, but we've still got a little bit of the summer autumn veg, like courgettes. One thing I love is to spiralize a courgette, a nice big one, of course, and then or you can get these lovely non-glucose pastas now that are sort of like a pea pasta or a chickpea pasta, and just cook an ounce of those and throw into a blender an ounce of your pine nuts, lots of lovely basil, garlic, sun-dried tomatoes, tablespoonful of olive oil, squeeze of lemon juice, and whiz it all up in your little blender thing, and stir that into your hot courgette or pasta. Or
sounds lovely,
it is beautiful homemade pesto, fresh made. It's worth keeping a basil plant on the windowsill to raid once a week, because if you take the big leaves off, the little ones will start to come back if you talk to it nicely and look after it. And in fact, Karen has told me that she's been growing basil sprouts in a little amazing little gadget that you've bought, isn't it?
Yeah, I bought it from a garden centre. It's a tray that you fill with water. Then it has another tray with holes in that you lay on top of it and put some kitchen roll on. And you sprinkle in seeds onto the paper, and they soak up and put the roots down into the water, and I've got this lovely crop of basil, and it's really strong flavoured.
Oh, how lovely.
And it came with 3 packets. There was basil, working memory,
Press.
basil, oh goodness me. Anyway, 3 different herbs, spices.
Yeah.
And I mean, the packets of seeds came to £5, and the whole thing was only £5.99 or £4.99. So it's very good, very good value.
Mm.
And the ones that you mentioned, which I've forgotten the name of again already, they were edible in 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basil.
Yeah, basil. So also, what I might do is also send out some other pestos, because coriander and parsley make beautiful pestos as well, as does pumpkin seeds used in a pesto. And the pestos can really, sort of transform. If you do something warm, like even if you do a sort of salad for lunch, and then heat up some beans like butter beans or cannellini beans or flageolet beans, and just half a can per person. And then while that's going on, grind your pesto, throw the hot beans onto the salad, pop the pesto on top, and stir it through the hot beans in the salad. And you've got the beans will warm your salad. So you've got some raw, some cooked, and it's really, really nice.
I'll have to go, Susie, because I've said I'd ring my sister.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I've kept you really late. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. And pesto stirred into soup. It's lovely.
Love pasta and love soup. So that's good. Yeah.
So if you put one of my inappropriate questions, with the buckwheat, can you make dumplings?
Ooh, dumplings.
Go with, a sensible stew.
Yes, if you've got buckwheat flour. Yeah, you can.
Sure, you can.
I'm sure I've got a dumpling recipe as well. Yes.
With all the cold weather coming, it would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. They are lovely, aren't they? Yeah.
I like a stew.
Yes. Yeah.
Susie, your spicy lentil stew I made that the other day. It was lovely.
Oh, was that the root one or
Yeah.
yes. Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
I haven't got that recipe.
It's really nice.
Yeah, you could put dumplings on that. Yes.
Could you put some cinnamon in it though? You could you?
Oh, absolutely you could. Yes. Yeah, it'd be really lovely. Yeah. The only problem with that root stew is it makes humongous quantities. I've freeze some as well. But that's no bad thing, because you've got a ready meal for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Anything else you would like in relationship to the cinnamon for recipes? Or the
it's just finding we haven't got an Asian anything
finding
around
the cinnamon. Yes.
So, yeah, it's just maybe online if I can't find it. I know the stuff I've got is just in a jar.
Yeah.
Seasoned Pioneers, have you heard of Seasoned Pioneers? They do lots of interesting spices. I think you can order that online, and I've got an organic cinnamon from them.
Oh, right. Seasoned.
Yes, and they do all sorts of spices. I don't even know I don't use cinnamon very much, so it's interesting. But Seasoned Pioneers, they do some really nice curry powders, and I think they're based on the Wirral somewhere, but they do really good packs for like Christmas presents of different spices.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. You occasionally see them in like delis, but The organic cinnamon there is nice, but I don't know what it is now. I'm going to have to check what it is.
Yeah. That'll be really interesting. Thank you. I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah.
The particularly nice curry powder they do is called samba powder. It's really nice.
Samba powder. Ooh.
It's really good.
I can't imagine anything more lovely than getting a smelly packet of spices through the post, actually. That sounds gorgeous. Yeah. As long as it doesn't drop through a letterbox for anybody that's got a dog. And
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. Thinking of what my dog used to eat when it came through the door.
Packets are like this. They come in little packets like this. Can you see?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I think I've seen those somewhere.
Yeah, you will have seen some of them, but look online. Go to digital.
Oh, yes, I do recognise it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Ah, thank you.
Brilliant.
Right. I'm going to let you go.
Go make a
It's
curry.
been really lovely to see you. Thank you. And
Yeah, thank you so much. Motivated again now.
that's great.
Susan, were you going to send us some other dates for future? We've only got 2 dates, haven't we?
Would you like me to do that?
Well, we've only got this date and the next one.
Yes, if I sort of went about 3 months ahead and see if
Yeah, I was
that's
quite happy with that. That would be
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Right.
Actually,
that's brilliant.
if you run up to Christmas and the New Year, because it would be good to try and touch base over there, those as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, they're horrendous for food, aren't they? You know, they're real.
Well, there's
I mean, there's an abundance of lovely food, but there's also lots of situations that you're in surrounded by food that you would rather, avoid.
yes. Yeah. Well, I think main thing is to get blood sugar control back into a better place, so that by the time you get to Christmas, the
impact of bad food is not
the impact of it, if you have it, is not going to be quite so devastating.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Because the steadier you keep it, things like doing your 12-12, where you're eating for 12 hours, fasting for 12 hours, if you can keep consistently to that, every little thing that you do contributes to helping your metabolism. The other thing to think about, and that I probably haven't mentioned as much tonight, only right at the beginning, is think about blood sugar and sleep, because if your blood sugar is steady, then your sleep will be much more consistent as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll see you next time. Well, I'll speak to you on Friday, Susan.
Yes. See you then. Thank you.
Okay.
Look after
Bye.
you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.